Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Cox. I'm a member of the Netcapital team. Let's allow one moment for folks to settle in, and then we'll dig right into this live Q&A. Thank you so much. Awesome, awesome. As folks are trickling in, I know we have folks from all over the United States and beyond on these webinars. So please let me know. I know we got Atlanta in the house with the Real Analytics crew. I'm calling from Southern California. Where else are folks calling from today? Go ahead and go ahead and hop in the chat if you want and share with us where you're calling from today. Always a fun experience. New York City in the house, NYC. Love
New
to see
York
it.
City.
We got team members out there. Beautiful. While they're doing that, let me go ahead and cue this up really quickly.
It would not be a Zoom without NYC in the house, so that's good to see.
You need it, need it. Okay, cool.
Hopefully you're not a Giants fan. Otherwise, you might not want to be on the call entirely. We may rib you a little bit if you're a Giants fan.
Okay, cool. Not a Giants fan, so you spared him. I got go pack go out here. I love it. See, I started asking where people are calling from. I should have asked what their favorite teams are. Way more engagement on the teams than on the city themselves. So we got Vikings, we got Packers, we got Cowboys in here. Man, feel for y'all.
Go Cowboys, go Cowboys. You're talking my language now.
All right, now we're speaking. Awesome. Well, thanks again. Let's go ahead and dig in. I still see folks trickling in, but we got a great group already on the line here. Thank you so much for everybody joining. As I mentioned, I'm Eric Cox. I'm a member of the Netcapital team. Super excited to be on the line here today with the folks with Real Analytics, a great crew here that are actively raising capital on the Netcapital platform. Go Bears. Let's go ahead and start doing a couple quick housekeeping items before we dig in here. Please do use the Q&A feature built into Zoom. I know there's also a chat feature, but Q&A is so much easier to track the questions as they come in and make sure that I answer as many of them as possible. So please do use the Q&A feature built into Zoom. Chat can be fun, talk with your fellow attendees, but if you want to ask a question, please do use that feature. And I do want to keep this interactive. Please do ask your questions. The whole point for us being here is to answer your questions, not mine. So feel free to put those questions into the Q&A. And again, I'll get to as many of them as possible, even from the Cowboys fans. No, I'm kidding. That's actually all I have for housekeeping. So with all that being said, please join me in welcoming Corey Yates with Real Analytics. As I mentioned, they're actively raising capital on the Netcapital platform. You can go to netcapital.com and search Real Analytics, or you can go to netcapital.com/companies/Real Analytics. That's REEL. So go ahead and check that out. And I'm going to go ahead and add a link to that into the chat here for everybody as well. But while I'm adding that link over here, join me in welcoming Corey. Corey, why don't you come on in and tell us a little bit about what you're building here?
Absolutely. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Again, my name is Corey Yates, and I serve as the CEO and co-founder of Real Analytics. Happy to be joined by Alfonso Thurman, who happens to be overseas as well right now. So glad he's traveling safely. But he and I are really excited about the project that we're working on, and we're going to share with you not only our vision, but we'll also share with you the solution by which we're solving our vision and a meaningful problem in the sports industry today that I think you'll be excited about, just like we are. And then, as Eric said earlier, we really want this to be interactive. So prior to jumping on, I was asking Eric, like, hey, should I show slides? Should we make this more interactive and more of a fireside chat and live Q&A? And so we're going to do a hybrid of the two. So as questions do come up, there may be an opportunity for me to actually show you real time the technology that, again, we think will help connect some of the dots as we talk through the problem that we're solving with our solution. So again, that's myself, and I'm going to kick it over to Alfonso to introduce himself.
Yeah, thanks, Corey. Hi, everybody. Alfonso Thurman, co-founder and COO Real Analytics. Great to be on with you this evening. Hopefully, we can answer all of your questions and invite you to join us on this journey as we look to change the sports analytics world.
By the way, tell them where you're at, Alfonso.
I'm currently tuning in from Vienna, Austria. Although I make Atlanta my home, I'm actually on a short vacation, but with the family. So it's what are we 6 hours ahead over here? So it's in the evening, but glad to be on with everybody.
Great. So look, just a little bit about our background before we get into it. So my background, I spent about 20 years in corporate America, primarily as a merchandising executive, running 10-figure businesses ranging from consumer electronics to the home improvement space. Alfonso and I met in 2005. So not only do I consider Alfonso business partner, I consider him a pretty close friend. And in 2019, he and I decided to solve a problem that at the time I was personally experiencing as my son was going through the football recruiting process. And that is families and parents and athletes sometimes can be frustrated by the process because of the uncertainty, which gives a lot of angst to those that are going through the recruiting process. And then as we started talking to some of the coaches that were recruiting my son back then, we were finding out that a lot of the things and tools that they were using to identify and evaluate players were the same methods and tools that they were using when both Alfonso and I played football, college football in the early and mid 90s. So I'm going to date myself a little bit there, but that just goes to show you how much opportunity there is in terms of advancing the industry and moving from what used to be more of a subjective evaluation and talent identification process to more of an objective talent identification and athlete verification process. And we're going to kind of talk to you about that as we go along. But that was really the pain point that we're solving. And just to put a number to that, we know through research and we interviewed over 150 college football program coaches, player personnel execs in 2019 to really understand what are some of the pain points that you're facing when you're going through the evaluation process and determining which athletes you're going to offer a scholarship to. And one of the pain points is lack of verified athletic information. All right, that's on the coach's side. And then being able to determine how athletic a player is when they're playing what seems to be, based on the eye, not poor competition, right? So they're not really sure how fast or athletic a player is because of the competition. And we're going to show you how we're solving that and helping these programs answer some of those questions. And then on the flip side, you have a number of high school student athletes. I don't know how many are on the call played any high school sport, but it's a challenge to make yourself and promote yourself in front of college programs to have an opportunity to earn a scholarship. And so we're very excited about the fact that we've been able to help student athletes promote themselves, get themselves in front of college football programs to help earn them a scholarship. And we have several proof points that we can share with you later today on doing that. So one of the ways we're also solving the problem, one of the benefits is we're helping athletes realize their dreams of playing at the next level. So that's a little bit of background about myself. Again, 20 years in corporate America. I am a former student athlete. I played college football at Texas A&M in Commerce, Division II program, played defensive back there, had an opportunity to walk on, earn a scholarship, but I was too short and too slow to play at the NFL level. And then I went right into coaching. So I went right into coaching, did that for a brief cup of coffee. So, we truly understand the space that we're playing in, not just from a business acumen standpoint and an analytics standpoint, but also from a practical standpoint, which is why we've been able to gain traction in the space, because we truly can speak not only the analytics language, but we can translate that so that coaches can understand, and we're serving up data that's meaningful to them, right? So that we're eliminating the noise, and we don't have to rely on those coaches to be statistical geniuses, right? These folks have a PhD in football, and we're able to speak their language and present data, meaningful data that's providing insights to help them make multi-million-dollar decisions when they decide to offer an athlete a scholarship. So that's a little bit about myself, and I'll kick it over to Alfonso to mention and tell you a little bit more about himself.
Yeah, thanks, Corey. Yeah, briefly, we have very similar backgrounds. I grew up in Illinois. I did see a Bears fan on the call. Go Bears! Unfortunately, we haven't had much to cheer about here for quite a while. But I grew up in Illinois. Was an all-state football player there. Went to Indiana. Was all Big Ten linebacker there. And similar to Corey, I did do some coaching as well immediately after school before going up to Canada for a brief period of time with the Rough Riders, and then going into corporate America, where I actually started off in sourcing world. I was at Procter & Gamble, then moved over to retail, worked grocery out on the West Coast with Safeway, and then I met Mr. Yates here in Atlanta at the Home Depot, where doing similar work, managing billion-dollar businesses at the very sexy world of plumbing repair and replacement for a number of those years. But the intersection of data and sports is something that I relish, and we are utilizing those skills to bring objective evaluations to the market for athletes, parents, teams, and as well as recruiters and evaluators. So again, happy to be on the call, and looking forward to speaking with you. Also, I did forget to mention I'm a two-time founder, so this is my second foray into entrepreneurship here with Real Analytics.
And I think I should actually help you out a little bit here for one moment. Is there an MBA somewhere that we lost track of as well? Do I have that right in my notes?
Yeah, I did. I do have my MBA from the University of Cincinnati. So I am also a Bearcat, although, I can't say that I claimed as much as IU, because that was one of those executive programs where you spend very little time on campus. But yes, I do have my MBA from the University of Cincinnati as well. Thanks for pointing that out, Eric.
No, I got your back, Alphonse. I got your back. So great team here, not only on the sports side, but obviously super experienced on the business side and the analytics side as well. So, I always love spending a bunch of time on teams. So I wanted to make sure that nobody gets under the misconception that you're just pure sports folks. You are business folks that happen to have incredible expertise coming from the sports world.
Thanks for that, Eric. And also, speaking of teams, just real quick, if I can also, I would be remiss if I didn't mention a couple of key advisors on the team. So we're very fortunate to be working with a couple of individuals as well, one of which by the name of David Hahn. So Dr. David Hahn he heads up the School of Engineering at the University of Arizona, and he serves as a key advisor. And his role on the team is really to make sure the algorithms that you'll see here shortly, that they're mathematically sound, right? So we've got technology that's patented that we'll show you, but we also need to make sure that the algorithms that we're utilizing to measure all of the athletic movements of these players are again, mathematically sound from a smoothing technique standpoint, et cetera. And then we also have Pratik Malhotra, who serves as the sports director for Texas A&M University. So he works closely, Pratik does, with Coach Jimbo Fisher. Pratik was part of their 2014, if you're a Florida State fan, he was part of the 2014 Florida State National Championship team, and was really a pioneer when it comes to leveraging analytics in the world of college football. And so we're very fortunate to be working with Pratik as well and leaning on his expertise, again, to make sure that we're speaking the language of our clients as it relates to college football programs and coaches.
Super helpful. Thanks for rounding out the team. I like, not losing track of the advisors. Oftentimes they bring an element that's super critical. And I think both the folks you just mentioned just now do bring those elements to your team. So as we continue along here, you started alluding to the problem and you started pointing to the solution. And I think this is really where some of the video graphics will be helpful. So if you could share a little bit about, kind of any slide you have on how big this problem is and what your solution is with Real Analytics.
Excellent. I'm not going to drain these slides, but I'll just quickly touch on them just to, again, level set. And for those who may have joined on a little bit late, you can see, if you think about the evolution of the athlete, that 6'4", 235-pound athlete, he was once considered the biggest, slowest player on an NFL roster. And if you fast forward to today, athletes at that same size, like DK Metcalf, they're playing in the skill positions, right? And they're some of the most they're the most athletic and fastest players on the field. Despite the evolution of the athlete, the tools used to measure athleticism, quite frankly, they haven't changed since the early 1900s. And so the result of that is that teams are losing $18 billion annually in salaries, scholarships, financial aid, and that is due to a 67% miss rate in athletic assessment. Not only that, as I mentioned earlier, it's leaving talented athletes unnoticed. And so our solution is really
Corey, real quick, can you remove that top part of the we could see that bar there going to top the screen.
Absolutely.
I think it's in the more.
Yeah, I think so. Or even if we just push it down to the bottom of the screen, it could work. Or push it, yeah, I should be able to pull it down. Yeah, I could grab it from there.
Oh. Okay. I don't want to leave, so I'm not going to touch that.
No.
Yeah, maybe if we just drag it down to the bottom of the slides for now.
Just drag it down to the bottom, maybe. Yeah,
that's as far as it's going to go. Okay, so our solution is anchored around AI, right? And so what we're leveraging is technology that unlocks previously unavailable athleticism data for content creation. And so we're using that data to power our proprietary in-game athleticism score. And so if you think about that, this is new to the industry. So we're pioneering something that's disrupting the space in a positive way. And we're leveraging this data to help athletes discover abilities. So what you see on the screen is you actually see on the right-hand side, how we're utilizing that in-game athleticism score to project players' ability to the next level. So let me just kind of move that back up. So you can see here, this is the IGA score, 87.7. And then you have the metrics that make up, a couple of the sub-metrics that make up the IGA score. And one of the things that separates us from our competition is our ability to contextualize every single metric that we're generating from the video, and contextualizing that so that athletes know how they compare to their peers. And oh, by the way, we're helping them understand how they compare to NFL athletes when they were the same age. So now as an athlete, I know how I stack, not based on the industry star rating standards, but based on objective data. And then that IGA score we utilize to project players to the next level, be it high school to college or college to the NFL, depending on where that athlete falls on a 100-point scale. I'll pause there. Any questions about that?
And as folks add in those questions, there were some really good questions that had come in. I don't want to transition away, but some folks were asking some really good questions about the kind of traction so far. So while people are thinking about their questions about the solution, the Real Analytics platform, let's go ahead and dig into, do you have any paying clients? And can you talk about the average client pay and lifetime value of those clients?
Sure. So I just wanted to, before we get into that, just wanted to have a live example so you can actually see an example of the output of the technology that we're using. So in this case, we're showcasing this player. He reached a max speed of 22.3 miles per hour. And then we have other several position-specific metrics that we're tracking in addition to speed. So let's talk about some of the traction that we've gotten so far. And it's important to note, this is pre-commercial traction. So we're early stage, and we've been able to establish proof of value with our MVP. So we launched our MVP in Q1 of 2020. And we've worked with major college football brands that you know, TCU being one of them. They were part of the college football national championship game last year. University of Michigan is also a client of ours. Kansas State, who won the Big 12 in last season. And then University of Washington, Coach Deion Sanders over at Colorado University is also utilizing our data to help build his championship roster, not only in Jackson State, which, by the way, we worked with he and his staff when he was at Jackson State, and we were able to help them do what they did there in terms of making college football history, quite frankly, and turning that program around. And we're doing the same thing so far with them at Colorado. And then Trent Dilfer, former Super Bowl champion quarterback for the Ravens, is utilizing our services as well over at the University of Alabama in Birmingham. And so that's just our pre-commercial traction as it relates to paid clients using our minimum viable product. Some of our non-revenue traction includes being awarded a patent earlier this year. So our IP is well protected, specifically around not only the data itself, but also how the data is displayed, and also how the data is being utilized from a platform standpoint. Earlier last year, we raised a small amount of seed money from BIP Ventures. So raised $120,000 there. So we are a proud BIP Ventures portfolio company. Very proud of the fact that we were listed as a top 100 most fundable company by the University of Pepperdine School of Business. And then this is really critical when you think about where we're going in the near future. We now have over 100 college football programs who have eyeballs on our athleticism data, and that is critical for us to penetrate the high school football market, because we were intentionally starting with college football in order to gain credibility so that we can then start to help these high school athletes earn an opportunity to be discovered. And so we've launched a high school beta program with 4 high schools. A couple of them are in the state of Texas. You know, when you think high school football, you think Texas. And so we have seeds there and programs there that we're working with to test this new product that we're going to be launching in 2024. And then we're working with a high school here in the state of Georgia, in our own backyard, Florida. And then also we have a high school in the Midwest, I believe, in Indianapolis. And then we're also very happy to announce that we actually just signed up a new high school in Texas. They're also a paying client as of last week. So they're utilizing our services. Again, the MVP, they actually see the value in the MVP, but when we launch our app, which Alfonso will talk to a little bit later, we're going to be really excited about the traction that it gains from there. So again, I'll pause here and answer any questions as it relates to our traction. Any questions so far?
Awesome. Thanks for that background, Corey. We talked about Kansas State and the Big 12 champion. Should probably mention back-to-back Big 10 champion Michigan on this list. Love to see that. Great work there. A lot of Ohio State decals on the offering page. We allow it. It's a great data. Proud of you for that work. No, I'm kidding. There's some good questions coming in. Actually, one more on this theme. But please keep these questions coming. Some people are saying congratulations. I'm saying this is outstanding in the chat. That's super exciting. Somebody says, and this would be a good transition to competitive landscape for a little bit. I know AWS does something similar. Are they a competitor, and what's your barrier to entry? So maybe we could start talking a little bit about competitive analysis and let more questions keep coming in.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you think about the competitive landscape, we have a pretty significant advantage over our competition. Actually, I'm gonna back up. I'll start with. I kind of talked about the IP and how we've got a strong moat around our IP. First, it starts with our first movers advantage. So when we soft launched in 2020, we were the first computer vision sports technology company that was providing verified in-game athleticism data on high school student athletes, first to market. And so for us to be able to have a patent awarded that protects, again, the data, how it's utilized and how it's displayed, gives us a significant advantage in the marketplace. So it starts with our technology. We're utilizing non-wearable computer vision technology to extract the athleticism data from video, which is very different than what you see on national television that's utilized by the NFL. The NFL is utilizing, they're using wearable technology, specifically RFID technology, radio frequency ID. And so to be able to track players and measure their athletic ability using RFID technology is a very expensive proposition that we estimate cost a single NFL team roughly over $1 million to be able to outfit their stadium with the required equipment to detect the sensors that are embedded in the chips of the NFL players, right? So that particular solution that's utilized at the NFL is not cost effective. It's not scalable at the college or high school level, which that's where we see a tremendous opportunity. We see white space to be able to attack that space in a meaningful way. So that leads us to our cost structure advantage. We don't have hardware development costs, manufacturing costs, or maintenance costs because this is all through video. And then because we're using computer vision technology, we're able to generate exclusive premium metrics, and specifically, and not to get too technical here, but we're tracking spatial metrics, which are things like yards of separation for deeper player insights, which at the collegiate level doesn't readily exist today. So NFL level, they're using wearable devices, right? Primarily RFID technology. At the collegiate level, they're also using wearable devices, but they're using wearable devices through a different technology, and that's GPS, Global Positioning Services. And that technology does not allow college programs to be able to measure how much yards of separation a wide receiver is creating when he's running a route, or what's the yards of separation a defensive back is allowing when he is in coverage. So we have a significant advantage over our competition around that. But at the end of the day, it boils down to the predictive power of all of this data that we're collecting. So we have a 75% player projection hit rate, right? And you say, was that good or bad? That compared to the industry is about 2.5, 3 times greater. So at the NFL level, right, they spend millions of dollars in terms of their player evaluation process, and they have a hit rate of about 33%. So when they draft a player or sign a player via free agency, right, they're only hitting about 33% of the time. And we know that because over 70% of rookies that enter the NFL sign a second contract. Okay, so the vast majority do not sign a second contract. At the collegiate level, that hit rate goes from 33% down to 24%. Okay. And so our ability to be able to project the upside of these athletes is a huge competitive advantage that no one else can match in the industry. And it's all because of the data that we're collecting from the video.
Yeah, real quick, just you said 70%. So 70% do not sign a second contract. So that was 70% of NFL players who sign a rookie contract do not sign a second contract. So we're considering that to be, around a 30% hit rate for those folks.
Correct. Yep. Thank you.
Awesome. No, that makes sense. And I think this is really important distinctions to be made here. One, video is getting better and better. The value of that video is going to become higher in my opinion. And I think the what you'll be able to do with the video will be more and more sophisticated with higher quality video. But I think your point about retrofitting arenas, they're very unlikely that the high school and collegiate level, even the most sophisticated, most established brands, that's just that the cost point to be able to track through RFID is just so overwhelming, and it doesn't seem like it has much advantage over your video technology here. So excited to hear about the patents protecting this exact secret sauce that you built out.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you think about to that point in the bottom left-hand corner, contextualized data set, our ability to go back and measure how fast was Bo Jackson, how fast was Eric Dickerson, how fast was Darrell Green, right? We can do that with our technology going all the way back to the late 1970s. We've got some examples on that on our social media handle. But the reason why that's important, again, speaks to building this robust data set that no one else can do. So at the NFL level, they rolled out their technology, their player tracking technology in 2016. So I think they started piloting it in 2014, but then it went to all 32 NFL teams in 2016. So that's as far as they can go back as it relates to player tracking data. So if you went to the NFL, right, and asked them how fast was Deion Sanders back in the day, they couldn't tell you. We can. At the collegiate level, the GPS wearable devices that they're using there, that didn't start becoming readily available to college football programs really until the mid 2010s. And even today, my son plays Division I ball. His college football program, they didn't even get wearable device units at their university until this year. And even then, they only have less than 20. And that's because it's not cost effective for them to be able to scale that technology at a meaningful level at the collegiate level. And then forget about high school. We have very few high schools that can afford to be able to outfit their athletes with the wearable devices from a GPS standpoint. So this is, again, where we see huge opportunity.
Absolutely. And if we could stay on this for one more moment, in line with defensibility, IP, you described the data utilization and display. That's kind of what you protected through the US granted patent. But somebody would love to do a little bit deeper dive. So is it the algorithm or the scoring or the metric models or real-time tracking capabilities? Can we dig a little bit deeper into what is the kind of protected assets through this IP?
Yes. So fortunately for us, the IP, the patent is pretty broad in terms of how we're protected. And so it does include the metrics that we're generating from the technology and the algorithm. So the process by which we're generating the data is absolutely protected. How we're serving that up so that customers can, search and find athletes that fit a certain criteria, that's also protected as well. Hope that
Thank you so much for digging. I think so, yeah, and thanks for digging deeper into that. I think it's always good to spend a little bit of extra time on IP and defensibility. Time flies when you're having fun, but we're a little over halfway through our scheduled programming here. So I'm going to go ahead and do my classic shameless plug. As a reminder, we're on the line here with the team from Real Analytics. They're actively raising capital on the Netcapital platform. You can go to netcapital.com and search Real Analytics, or you can go directly to netcapital.com/companies/real-analytics. That is REEL-ANALYTICS. And I also went ahead and added that back into the chat feature for anybody who just wants to click the link. But I did want to remind folks that you can go review the offering page. And if you're so inclined, you too can invest in Real Analytics. I had to get that off. Thank you so much. More good questions coming in. Thank you so much. Again, please keep this interactive. We're here for you. We really want to answer your questions. So this is outstanding, game-changing, literally. Love that. Well played. What is your biggest challenge to overcome right now, technical or other? Great question.
Excellent question. Thanks for that question. So our biggest challenge is keeping up with demand. And so what I mean by that more specifically is one of the things in the typical startup fashion, one of the things that we did not anticipate when we founded the company was the fan engagement piece. So we spent, the first half of this live chat talking about one of our verticals, which is performance analysis, right? That makes up one vertical of our business model. But then our fan engagement piece, we started to realize, based on the traction that we're getting from social media, that the fans were eating this content up that we were putting out there on social media. And we were using social media as a way to advertise, a cost-effective way to advertise showcase our technology, to drive leads, which worked for us. But then we saw our Twitter handle the numbers just started to tick through the roof in terms of not only followers, but also the number of impressions that we were able to generate. So just as an example, the past 28 days, just through our Twitter handle, we were able to generate close to 6 million impressions within a 28 million within a 20-day period. And so to put that in context, to know whether or not that's a meaningful number, that's about the same number of impressions that PFF can generate in half the time. So PFF generates that in about 14 days. We generate that in about 28 days, but PFF has a heck of a lot more followers than we do on Twitter. So we're going to be leaning into that in a meaningful way, which speaks to our fan engagement vertical. And the reason why that's critically important is because we know that advertisers are trying to reach the Gen Z consumer base, right? And so for those of you who know and are familiar with Gen Z, these are the folks between the ages of, I believe it's 16 and 25 years old. I have two that are in that space, but they have significant purchasing power and also influence on purchasing power. And so advertisers are spending $264 billion in digital ads to reach this audience. 63% of Gen Z consumers purchased a product that they saw on social media, and 73% of consumers prefer to watch a short form video to learn more about a product or service. And so what that means for us is that Real Analytics is positioned well to monetize our short form video content that you saw earlier by allowing these brands and these companies to utilize them for sponsorship opportunities and then licensing them on streaming and social media platforms. So that's the second piece of our business model. And that's the one that's been the most challenging because we've been having to get creative with how we're going to service this particular space. And Alfonso and I are in the midst of actually negotiating a media rights deal to the leading streaming company of high school sports. And so that's one of the milestones that we're currently working on that we're going to close before the end of the year. Good question.
That's such an important piece of what's going on right here, right now, too, because I think there's a real special time, a real confluence of things happening right now where gamification and on-screen data is becoming more and more common. I know Thursday Night Football now, you could tune into either a pure gameplay football game, or you can actually watch the game with that next-gen stats associated with it. And that's really because Amazon owns that data. But for every other game that's on, they don't have access to that type of data. So I feel like there's a real opportunity here on the on-screen data side and the gamification. We just saw the game, the NFL game played in London, and they had a whole nother game ongoing from Andy's room with the Pixar theme overlay. So a real time of, it feels like a real special time in terms of engagement, fan engagement right now.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And so I mentioned that streaming company that we're working with. We did a pilot with those folks, and it was successful. And so again, we'll end up closing that opportunity by the end of this year, this fiscal or calendar year, I should say. And the reason why they're highly interested and want to move forward with it is because we were able to prove to them that our content can not only drive engagement, we can actually drive incremental subscriber-based growth, right? And so just so one of the cool things that we learned, one of the test posts that we did on social media, they were able to actually close a handful of grow their subscription base by a small amount. I can't disclose the amount, and they were like, we've never been able to actually sign a customer up, a new sub, based on a social media post, and it was all driven by going after a new customer base for these folks. And that new customer base that we're helping these folks reach are the avid college football fans who are interested in that athlete that has been committed to their school, right? That they want to follow.
Absolutely. And you see the way, especially Gen Z, but millennials as well, using that kind of the social media as the way that they can advance their careers. I mean, Coach Prime is a perfect example of understanding how powerful social media can be for strengthening your program. So thanks so much for talking about the business model, super critical. Can we dig a little bit into the market size here? So for folks who are unfamiliar, how big is this market for your product?
Yeah, so on the screen here, you can see that we know that $140 billion, that's being spent by both parents and high schools on sports equipment and training. The key thing here is to understand the psychology of the sports parents, and I'm one of them. Alfonso is also one of them as well. 50% of sports parents believe that their child will receive an athletic scholarship, 50%. And I was part of that number. What does that mean? That means we're opening up our wallets to be able to give our student athlete, our child, an opportunity to pursue their dream. And so parents are spending $1,200 per child in pursuit of an athletic scholarship. And oh, by the way, there are 7.6 million high school student athletes that participated in sports in the 2021-2022 school year. So you can kind of do the numbers there to see what the opportunity is from a market standpoint. And then I talked about the size of the space from a fan engagement standpoint. But we're going to lean in, excuse me, we're going to lean into helping athletes become more discoverable by giving those athletes and their families ways to promote themselves through both our data and the short form video content that they can then share, right, through subscriptions and licensing. And so when you think about some of the revenue streams that come from that first vertical, again, monthly subscriptions and annual subscriptions, that's all monetizing our IGA score, the athleticism data through a mobile app as well as a desktop app, and then distributing that data to channel partners through an API. And then again, monetizing that short form video, giving national brands and companies an opportunity to promote themselves to reach that Gen Z audience or any other audience that's highly interested in sports. And so think about a rev share opportunity, sponsorship opportunities, and then also licensing our technology to streaming platforms.
Yeah, super exciting. I think of Max Preps. I think of all the Drew League stuff. I think of all sorts of different applications here. So that's super exciting. Please remember to keep sending those questions in. Again, we want to answer as many of them as possible. So we'll go ahead and drop those in there. You covered a lot about your progress to date, and congratulations on that traction. What do you view as your next major milestones? And I'm going to go ahead and do you a favor and put out a massive asterisk that the future is inherently speculative and uncertain. There's no guarantees in what you're sharing here, but like your best case scenario, what do you imagine some of your next major milestones?
Yeah, so it really starts with revenue growth. And so for us, closing the deal that I mentioned earlier, the media rights deal with the streaming company. Again, this is the leader in high school sports streaming, where we're in the midst of negotiating a contract with those folks to be able to help them grow their subscriber base and attract a more stickier sub, leveraging our content. So look for an announcement to happen on that potentially the end of this year or Q1 of 2024. And then we're also in the midst of negotiating a multi-million or a multi-year deal with a sports analytics company where they're licensing our data and serving our data up on their platform to help improve their product offering. And so again, that deal will likely close by the end of this year. And we're really excited about that piece. And then you think about some of the opportunities we have at the college football space. We continue to gain traction there. We'll be announcing here in the next couple of months being a partner of University of Alabama in terms of not just the in-game athleticism score and data points to help them improve their roster and self-scouting, but also leaning into that fan engagement piece. So this would be the first of its kind as it relates to the fan engagement piece at that level. And so that's a really big deal. And we're in the process of working through the points and the nuances as it relates to that piece. Them leveraging our digital assets from a fan engagement standpoint. So that's all about driving incremental sales, and that's really what we're focused on. And so we're forecasted by the end of this year to increase our top line sales by over 7x with those deals coming into play. So that's on the sales front. And then from a technology standpoint, we want to continue to improve the algorithms and get it to the point to where that we can offer real-time data and serve that up to be able to open up additional market opportunities where if a game is being streamed live, we can serve this up via live streaming or a live broadcast. Today it's not. No one in the space has the ability to do that today. So we're not at a competitive disadvantage, but we just want to make sure that we run fast to be able to take advantage of the white space that exists today in that area. Alfonso, did you have anything else to add to any of that?
Yeah, I would say one other thing on the technology front. So, as we look to, now kind of shift our focus a little bit from, the college arena, which as we know, that's kind of the probably the sexier thing that most folks know about is, NFL and college, but there are only roughly 350, 360 college football teams. Well, while we have 16,000 high schools and we've got 1.3 million athletes and teams out there, we really are focused our technology as well on allowing our customers to self-service, right? So we've got, so as that other slide showed there, right? So today, the technology is used internally only. But one of the key outputs of, or one of the key expenditures that we're going to utilize our dollars that we're raising is around getting this technology to the point where customers can self-service. So an athlete, a parent, a high school coach can get on our desktop or mobile app and upload their video and get athleticism data, back, basically immediately. So, that again will also help us to, keep up with the demand. And, as we generate more demand, this is just going to help us grow even faster, help us scale.
And so from a new product launch standpoint, so in 2024, Q1 of 2024, we will launch our athletic verification app that Alfonso mentioned. This is just a self-service model where a high school athlete can upload their video clip into the app, right? And then we then process that video and provide them with not only the in-game athleticism score and their projection, but also a shareable video that they can then post on their social media account and share with, not only family, but also friends, fans. Believe it or not, some high school players do have fans, and more importantly, coaches to help them become more discoverable.
That's so exciting on that technology. And actually someone in the chat said, as an investor in Real Analytics, I'm happy to hear this. So super exciting and welcome to the family. I think that's really impactful. And I love my Gen Z brothers and sisters, but I think the self-service opportunity will be massive in a community that really, I think identity is a big piece of their value, their personal worth. So being able to put a clip together, upload and get that data, I can imagine TikTok might really love that. So last couple of moments here. So I'm trying to sneak in these last two questions, and I love this one. Other than cash, how can we help? That's a fun one. So, of course, you can go to netcapital.com and you can invest, you can own a piece, you can support. But besides the investment, how else could folks on the line potentially help Real Analytics?
So I think one, getting the word out about about Real Analytics. And one way to do that, give us a follow, keep up with us. You can follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @RA Analytics, ANALYTICS. Again, at RA Analytics. Give us a follow on that particular platform, and you can see some of the work that we're doing there, and you can see just how engaged our followers are and fans are on the content that we're posting. In fact, our content has actually been featured on popular sites such as ESPN. We've been referenced in the Bleacher Report, the Atlantic. Pro Football Focus has leveraged our content as well. And so you can support us in that way. And then just let other folks know within your community that we exist, that we are in the midst of looking for partners. And let me be more specific. We are looking to round out our team. And so we're looking to bring on 2 key individuals. One, we're looking to bring on a chief revenue officer to help us, again, kind of keep up with this demand. And so there's anybody that has experience, particularly in the high school media space, we'd love for you guys to, maybe make a warm introduction on that front. And then we're also looking to bring on a chief technology officer as well. And so those would be 2 ways that you can help if you know of anyone. And on the CTO front, looking for someone that has experience with machine learning, computer vision, and has a pretty strong technical background as it relates to that piece. But those would be the ways that folks on this call could help us.
Thank you so much for that. And I love that question. I think it's always important to remember that as an investor, you can create extra value for your investment by doing these sorts of things. So I really do appreciate that question coming through. And then last question here, I think we'll be able to sneak in. And maybe if we have extra time, we'll talk about closing remarks. But let's talk exit strategies for a moment. And you alluded to some potential exits here, but if we could switch over to potential exit strategies for a moment. And again, I'm going to do another preface here. Future, speculative, uncertain. Go ahead, Corey.
Yeah, I think, when you think about, well, first and foremost, it's important for us for the audience to know that creating shareholder values is first and foremost. And so for us, it's really all about making sure that we continue to run the business in order to create shareholder value. So that's going to always be a priority for us. We're not going to go and chase an exit if it doesn't make sense. So that's point 1. Point 2, if you think about, and we're just speculating here because I don't have a crystal ball, but if you think about who we may be attracted to, there are, we would think that we would be attractive to media companies that are looking to enhance their viewership experience with technology. And if they look at the success that the NFL is having and they want to take a page out of that, we're probably someone that they might want to look at if in fact that's part of their long-term strategy. So any media company, whether it's a streaming platform, whether it's a local sports broadcasting company, we would probably be attracted to them. And if you think about our strategy in penetrating the high school market, look, at the end of the day, what we're doing with video is, if you think about the market leader when it comes to high school video sharing, there's a company based out of Nebraska that is probably looking to say, hey, how can we improve the stickiness of our subscribers, because they have over 90% market share in the high school space in terms of the video exchange space. And to be a little bit more clear, this is the platform that athletes are using to create highlights to promote themselves to college and universities, right? And so they do not offer player tracking data today. That's not part of their product offering. So we would think that, perhaps they would probably be willing to engage in a conversation and say, hey, look, here's something that we can add to offer a premium product in the near future if they decide to do that, or if they decide to go in a different direction from a strategic standpoint. Probably would make sense for them to consider that. How did I do with that?
I think that was great. Alfonso,
and I would
came off
just,
mute,
I
so
would
why don't
just,
you bring us home? Yeah.
yeah, no, I would just say, and I don't know if this was implied in kind of the sports media companies, but all those companies that are currently kind of rating or ranking high school players that you probably know if you're familiar with the space, those would be on the list as well.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
So kind of three types of companies. Yep.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Awesome. Well, we are right at the end of our time, so I think that's right where we should probably call it. So thank you so much for all of our attendees and your thoughtful questions. Thank you so much for asking. Thanks so much for engaging with the Q&A. It was a pleasure having you on the line. Join me in thanking our panelists on the line here, Corey Yates and Alfonso Thurman, calling in from Atlanta and Vienna. Enjoy the rest of your vacation, Alfonso. Thanks for taking the time from international, 6 hours ahead of the East Coast. So thank you so much for both of you for joining and telling us about this investment opportunity. Obviously, final reminder, go ahead and check out their offering page on Netcapital. You can go directly to netcapital.com and search Real Analytics. That's REEL. Or you can go ahead and go to netcapital.com/companies/Real Analytics, or you can select the link that I'm re-adding into the chat right now. You can select that link. It'll go directly to the offering page where you can learn more. And if you're so inclined, you can invest. And lastly, if you missed any of this, or you know somebody who might have been interested in hearing some of these details, but they weren't able to attend, feel free to share with them the YouTube link to Netcapital's YouTube. We'll have this uploaded in the next day or so. So do go ahead and share this video for anybody that you think might be just a sports fan or might be interested in investing. And I did also add a link to the Twitter, and that was at RA Analytics on Twitter, where you can go ahead and make sure you're following Real Analytics team, keeping up with their updates. And making sure that you're really kind of part of the team there. So go ahead and check out those links that I added into the chat. And thank you again for everybody for joining. And thank you so much for the panelists here answering your questions.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, team. Have a good day.